Hey guys, it's Monatoboy83 here, and today I'd like to welcome you all to my first episode of my new series, Should You Play? A series where I break down whether you should or shouldn't play a game based on its story, gameplay, visuals and sound, and thematics. And today's episode is going to be about a game I've grown very fond of recently, Dead Space. First, let me catch you up to speed on a little backstory about the game. Dead Space was developed by Visceral Games, a developer owned by EA who pretty much exclusively makes Star Wars, Battlefield, and sports games these days. The game came out in October 2008 for Xbox 360, PS3, and PC with very favorable reception, receiving an 89 on the popular review aggregation site Metacritic. The game spawned 2 sequels, 2 spin-off games, 2 animated movies, and some comics and books. Unfortunately, despite the success of the Dead Space franchise, EA shut down Visceral Games and Dead Space has been dead ever since. I first heard about Dead Space a couple years ago from some top 10 YouTube videos on various channels, and I would never really had any interest in playing in it, but I knew it was a game. I'm not really a horror guy, and in fact I pretty much hate everything that's horror related except for the movie A Quiet Place, which was freaking awesome. I got Dead Space for free on Origin a couple years ago, and I figured I'd try it out recently, and I had a really fun time with it. So, let me tell you all about the story first, and don't worry, I won't be spoiling anything, because I really want you all to play this for yourself. Dead Space takes place in the distant year of 2508, and stars an engineer named Isaac Clarke. Isaac's girlfriend, Nicole Brannon, is stationed on a behemoth of a space vessel called the USG Ishimura, orbiting the planet Aegis 7. The Ishimura is a planet cracker, a mining vessel that can mine resources en masse at incredibly high rates. Isaac and a small team aboard the USG Kellion, another ship, are dispatched to answer a distress call from the Ishimura. As the Kellion begins docking procedures, something goes wrong, causing the Kellion to crash into the Ishimura. Isaac and his team exit their heavily damaged shuttle to find an eerily quiet and empty planet cracker. The crew enters the flight lounge, and Isaac travels to a separate room within it to pull up a damage log, only for the power to go out. As soon as the lights go off, grotesque zombie-like creatures called necromorphs enter the flight lounge and begin slaughtering the Kellion team. Isaac books it out of there along with Commander Hammond and Kendra Daniels, and together they have to discover a way to escape the Ishimura. But it's a video game, so most of the task falls to you. The story of Dead Space is pretty decent. You basically just go along the ship trying to fix up different parts of it so that you can escape, but most of the time it fails and you have to try something else. Over the course of the story, you'll learn about something called the Marker, which caused the necromorph outbreak, and a religion called Unitology that's based around the Marker and its supposed power. The story was very engrossing, but not because of the main plotline of trying to leave the ship, but all the little lore tidbits about the ship and the necromorph outbreak that you can find along the way. As you travel along the ship, you'll pick up various logs of differing mediums from video to audio and even text logs detailing the events of the Ishimura crew up to and through the necromorph outbreak. It's so interesting to hear this history while you walk through the very halls it took place in, and it kept me completely interested. I was eager to find new logs and learn the story they contained, and added to the scare factor as you see these past events unfold as the frightened crew is powerless to stop it. My only real complaints about the story were the characters. Isaac himself doesn't speak, but Kendra and Hammond just felt kind of annoying, and I didn't feel like they helped me out too much story-wise. But it's not that big of a deal. There's a lot more to this game than story, but overall I can safely say you should play it for the story, because it gets really interesting as you go along. Now, this is a video game, so gameplay is really the most important thing here, and I can safely say that the gameplay is very good, although there are some slight problems that do make the experience not as enjoyable as it could be, but nothing that stopped me from finishing the game. Survival games are not new by any means in the video game world. In fact, there are so many I can't even begin to list them all, but Dead Space uses its elements to craft a different type of zombie survival game that I found to be fresh, frantic, and fun. As I mentioned, Isaac is an engineer, and to go along with that, Isaac uses engineering equipment to dismember his foes. And yes, I specifically mean dismember. Unlike pretty much every shooter game ever made, you don't want to go for the headshot on the necromorphs of Dead Space because they're already completely dead. No, necromorphs can survive having their heads torn off. Instead, you have to chop off their limbs, which isn't always as easy as you would think. However, the weapons in this game play around that mechanic to make for some really interesting gameplay. Your goal in any combat scenario is to cut off the enemy's limbs as fast as possible without taking hits or using up your precious ammo, and doing that is really fun. Your first weapon, the plasma cutter, works like a standard pistol, but it has a wide firing spread, and you can rotate the spread 90 degrees to make it easier to cut off different appendages. Every weapon has a secondary function, like the plasma cutter's rotator, and it makes your weapon very versatile. It feels really good taking down the different necromorphs, ranging from creatures with blade arms to enemies with exploding growths for limbs. Some of these enemies get really freaky, especially these necromorphs attached to walls, who wail in agony while spurting out turret-like creatures at you. Overcoming a swarm of necromorphs is so fun, and once that's done, you continue with the other main gameplay scenario, exploring the ship. Exploring the Ishimura is actually pretty fun. You'll go to a lot of different locations that all feel really distinct from another and keep each chapter fresh. You're going to find your save stations here, the store to buy new stuff, schematics to find new stuff to buy in the store, benches which allow you to use these things called power nodes that you can find to augment your weapons. You're going to find ammo, you're going to find lots of necromorphs. It's all really cool. Sometimes you get to go into zero gravity segments where you can freely jump across to the other side of the room. You're going to get to use your kinesis module and your stasis module, which allows for some really interesting puzzle solving. The kinesis module allows you to move really big objects with relative ease and even shoot things that you find on the ground at enemies to stop them if you're running low on ammo. And your stasis module allows you to freeze certain objects and slow them down. For example, when you first get your stasis module, you find a door that's opening and shutting really fast, too fast for you to go through. So you just use your stasis module on it and you can go through just fine. It makes the puzzles really cool, and I really liked these segments. Now, this game isn't perfect. It does have its problems, but they're not too bad, and they only really make a couple experiences really unfun. My main issue with the gameplay is clarity. Sometimes the puzzles had unclear solutions leading to a few deaths, which was quite frustrating, but not a huge obstacle. When I ran into a new enemy, I never walked away from the encounter feeling like I knew how to deal with them, and that kind of sucked because it led to wasted ammo. On a few occasions, your camera angle has changed and you have to shoot something from a weird angle, which was kinda hard, at least with a mouse and keyboard. And there were some really oddly placed turret sections that were very difficult, and I could easily see ending someone's playthrough. The biggest problem was a few encounters that I couldn't beat right away and made me put the game away for a day, which didn't feel too great, but it only happened 2 or 3 times. Lastly, there was a hotkey to use a health pack without going into the menu, but that feature wasn't available for stasis, so refilling that in a pinch was impossible. I didn't even go over everything because there are a lot of surprises and cool moments in store if you want to pick it up. Now, what really made me interested about Dead Space and what made me buy the sequels right after I finished the first game was the visuals and the sound design. I actually built Isaac's security suit helmet from Dead Space 2 myself, and yes, you can call me a nerd now, but it's really cool, so whatever. Okay, Dead Space has some phenomenal visuals. Even though it's a sci-fi game, the Ishimura feels pretty rudimentary with a tram system to go between segments and tons of vents. It's not a sleek fancy vessel like you would see in Star Wars. It feels like something we would see 500 years in the future at the current rate of technological advancement. Every room feels like it's part of the ship, but each area is unique enough to feel fun to explore. I liked Isaac's Dead Space 2 armor, or rig as it's called, enough to build a part of it, and I have to say I really like his armor here too. His suit looks so unique, and I've never seen anything like it. With its high amount of band-like plates and slotted helmet, makes him look like a futuristic welder. The typical sci-fi lighting effects look good here too, like the door unlocked holograms and the thin light of the objective locator that helps guide you through the ship. The character models look a little rough, but these aren't as prevalent, and the necromorphs look super gross and really detailed, which in this case is a good thing. Now, the game really shines in the sound design. Walking along a dimly lit hallway only to hear a wrench drop in the distance or the pounding of movement through the ducts above feels so scary, and on some occasions made me decide not to explore certain areas, which was such a cool feeling. The cries of the necromorphs in the distance not only told me what enemies I was going to deal with, but scared the crap out of me, especially after the sound of a vent exploding. The calming voice telling me that a quarantine has been put in place got me ready to fight, while the swarms came in, and the voice telling me the quarantine was lifted felt satisfying and gave me a feeling of safety.
Even the muffled sound of footsteps in the space segments made me afraid, and had me panic to find what was attacking me.
It's hard to really describe how the sound adds to the gameplay, but I've never seen a game use its sound design to create its atmosphere better than Dead Space. Absolutely play this game for the visuals and the amazing sound design. And now finally, on to thematics.
Dead Space is supposed to be scary, and it absolutely is. You feel completely alone in the Ishimura, except for the occasional call from Hammond or Kendra, and the only thing that keeps you company is Isaac's breathing and grunts. Unlike most games, there's no display on your screen showing you your health or stats. Instead, everything is on your suit, making you feel like you're just watching Isaac, rather than playing a game. Your health bar is on your spine and stasis module to your side, while everything else is a projection from your suit's chest plate. Hearing the sounds of an enemy coming while walking along a dark path, only for the power to fail as enemies burst through the vents, fills you with dread in a way that only this game can bring. You're trapped on a failing cold metal vessel, and the game makes you really feel that. There's nowhere to run, and escape is the only option. You have to explore if you want to survive, and that means you're going to run into bloodthirsty necromorphs that would love nothing more than to turn you into one of them.
Dead Space is thematically perfect. Whenever the game wanted to make you feel something, it used every single part of the game to work together and make you feel what they wanted you to feel. Visceral did such an excellent job of tying every component together to make something really unique that stands out above all the other zombie survival games that you could play. Because essentially Dead Space is a zombie survival game. Absolutely play this game for the thematics. I don't think there is a zombie survival game out there that is as unique as Dead Space. I give this game my glowing recommendation. It's a blast to play, and at 10 hours, it's not really that much of a time investment, but still a worthwhile experience. Now, it definitely is rated M, there is a lot of gore, and you are killing necromorphs with chainsaws sometimes, so if you're not really into that, probably pass on it, but if you're fine with it, it's pretty cheap nowadays to pick up, so if you find yourself a copy or want to get it on PC, go right ahead. I can assure you, you're gonna have fun with this one.